Welcome. This is a special meeting for the budget hearing. So if you would stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much and welcome. This is the special meeting for the public hearing.
Sorry, turn it off.
For the-
You're doing fine.
This is for the amendments for the Port of Allyn 2024 budget. And the purpose of this hearing is to discuss the amendments on the Port of Allyn 2024 budget, receive public comment on proposed amendments to the budget, and then closure of the public hearing. And anyway, we'll take comments as well. Okay. Any public comment first? That's not here, but I'm going to go ahead. Any public comment first? Okay, hearing none, moving forward. Commissioner Travis, do you have anything you want to?
I will only
Yeah.
say this, Chairwoman, is that I've been through this with the team. So, and I know what's here, and we'll just see what if anybody has any comment. Aside from that, I do not. I think it's a very positive direction for us.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about that.
I would agree. I would like to thank Jeff Carey again for all the work that he's done. He's just really pulled all of this together and crunched numbers and balanced things that has gone far beyond what anybody can ask.
Yeah, and bounce things off of Commissioner Netherland, and then
Yeah.
they presented to me in detail, quite a bit of detail, line by line, that this represents what we did that day.
Yeah, and to add, thank you, Commissioner Randy Netherland as well for coming in and stepping in and helping and figuring this out as well. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you. Travis, do you have any comments?
Well, it's very comprehensive. We certainly nailed down a lot of things that didn't seem to quite feel right.
Right,
So now they feel right.
we shaved off a lot of stuff, a lot of little things.
And we see a number at the end of the year that at least our plan going forward for that end of the year number is going to allow us not to have the situation we have currently.
Right,
So happy to see it's to fruition, and I'm sure there are some things still in here that I will be able to shave off
Mhm.
over just time, being able to go through more accounts.
yeah,
There's just there was just so much, and there's only so much time to do it with
Yeah.
the business of the board.
we'll do more of that, and that work's cut out for us to stay and stick to the plan.
Now, this was on the website, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Public comment, Ken, do you have something you'd like to share?
Prefer to go first, Jim?
No, because I'll summarize, and so.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that you had.
That's
your hand
fine.
up. Okay. Ken,
Yes, I
Okay.
have some comments.
thank you.
June had her hand up as well.
Oh,
so
she
let's not
does?
Forget about you.
Okay, I
Okay,
couldn't see that, I'm
I
so
didn't either.
sorry.
okay,
No,
June wants
no,
first.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Ken Van Busker from Belfair. As you were aware, I attended all of the special meetings you had back in November. And pointed out a couple of rather significant errors to Miss Dennis prior to the December 4th budget hearing, and she corrected those. We didn't have to deal with them, but I went back and I watched that public hearing on December 4th. I wasn't in attendance because I was in the hospital at the time, but Mr. Carey read my comments, Mr. Brad Carey read my comments into the record. And the meeting seemed to be rushed. I think I was the only one that made any comments, other than what Brad might have mentioned. and you adopted the budget with no changes. And I was a bit frustrated as I had spent a lot of time trying to help, and I felt that I was ignored. So the budget format has been changed now. But I would like to reflect on my previous comments and make some additional comments. Back in December 4th, I made some comments about grant proceeds in Sweetwater Park. Quote, in my opinion, grant proceeds are not a good way to have a sustainable budget. There are long-term obligations and restrictions with most grants that often get overlooked or ignored. I would encourage the board to proceed with efforts, and I'm changing my tune now. I'm not going to say surplus anymore due to Mr. Merrill's recommendation. I'm going to say, let's transfer the property and remove the grant from budget documents. I went on to talk about meeting stipends. At that December hearing, I suggested that the commission consider not taking stipends. You didn't take any action at that meeting on stipends. You did make a change in December, or excuse me, you did make a change in January right before Commissioner Jackson resigned. The current budget, amended budget, still shows 2,200 in the revised budget. And Mr. Merrill confirmed that that's it's for the vacant commissioner position if they elect to choose a stipend. Back at that December meeting, I also made a recommendation that the executive director's salary be reduced and or limited to 60 to 70,000 a year. As it had been the largest percentage of human resource budget for the last several years. I see that you did take my advice on that and now read 71,000, and I appreciate that. I think that was a good move to make. Regarding professional and technology legal services, at one of the November budget meeting workshops, there was discussion about not going down the same road, excuse me, same trail with Mr. Brad Carey. In December, the figure in the legal services was 38,000. And I suggested that the board put something more in the budget to cover cost of mediation per that settlement agreement he made with Mr. Carey. The revised budget is now down at 21,000. I still think that you should probably put something in there for whatever comes of mediation. And I also recently brought to your executive director's attention a couple potential litigation issues that you'll probably want to consider moving forward. I then made a comment about professional and technology services lobbyist. Back in November, Miss Sevilla and Miss Dennis provided me with an email that she sent to you folks, discussed reducing the 32,000 of the lobbying expenses. This was back in November. She also said that the budget as it was not sustainable, again in November. In my December testimony, I suggested that the lobbyist expenses be removed from the budget. You did not remove anything. You approved it. Even though Ms. Sevilla and I suggested much less. I'm pleased to see that you now have corrected that. But you could have done it then just as well as now. The next thing I talked about was administrative under cell phones for commissioners. In December, you budgeted $3,000 for cell phones. At that time, I suggested that they weren't necessary for commissioners after checking with other local organizations, to include the school board and the North Mason Regional Fire Authority. In the revised budget, the amount for cell phones is now more than it was in December. In the last week, I've checked with both the Port of Shelton and with the Port of Bremerton, and neither of those provide cell phones for commissioners. Please reconsider. Administrative memberships and subscriptions. In December, it was $3,725 in the budget. I asked that the membership with Kitsap Building Association be discontinued. And I also asked what other memberships were absolutely necessary. I know Mr. Merrill's gone through and eliminated quite a few of them. But the current amount is up to $4,000, which is more than it was in December. I think you can probably do better, and I know it sounds like he's still looking into those. I also suggested in December that the accounting support that Ms. Sevilla provided, that you budgeted more money into that account. And I see that you have invested a substantial amount there, and I think that's something that's going to be important to maintain as this budget keeps moving forward. I know I've mentioned this before, but I think it's still important. While there's nothing in the proposed or revised budget for the Sweetwater Park capital project, it's still there as a placeholder. And I think this item needs to be removed. The port expended port dollars in 22 and 23 that was not reflected in the year-to-date 22-23 when they built the budget the next year, nor in the original 24 draft. The port paid for 2 arborist reports, boundary line survey, game cameras, signage, 20+ ecology blocks, and legal fees regarding trespass. There was also removal of a large willow tree that benefited the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. There is still a large pile of debris on the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group's property that continues to get soaked in the rain. Please transfer this property. I appreciate the separation of the general fund account and the water system account. Been a long time in coming, and Mr. Carey worked really hard to help get it together. I'm concerned that it appears that you have potential issues with developer late payments. I'm also concerned that you seem to be loaning money back and forth between the general fund account and the water fund account. Well, that may not be the proper way to do things. They each have different rates of interest, so that's even more concerning. Lastly, the sewer service for the kayak park seems to be exorbitant as it's not open all the year, all the public year. And I don't know if that is required in the grant that originally purchased that property, that it be open year round, but the toilet isn't. So
Okay.
that's all I have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. June, did you have your hand up? And you're muted or?
No.
Okay. Oh, you did not? Okay. Ready?
I'm only coming up to say thank you. I watched something wonderful happen. And I want to share it with the community and tell you guys what I saw. When all this started, you were in trouble, to say the least. There was a lot you had to figure out you didn't even know, and you don't know what you don't know. But I watched people work together extremely hard, learn how to do things that they didn't know how to do. I watched people work together as a team, individually and then together. And then I watched a community member that you get really lucky, you get once in a lifetime, somebody like that, that can stand up and do what they did. So I wanna thank Travis for learning how to do all this stuff and for stepping up.
Yeah.
I wanna thank the commissioners for empowering these people to do what they knew how to do, because that's one of the hardest things to do, is empower others to get done what needs to get done, but that's what it took for you guys to do this, and you did it. And I wanna thank Jeff himself, because I'll tell you what, I've worked with him over and over again for years, and he's magical when it comes to, numbers and putting things together. And I can tell you that this community is better off today because of all the work that you did. And Jeff, the work you did specifically, we're better off today because of you. And so I'm supportive of moving forward with this, but of course I was part of it, so that wouldn't be a surprise. But I gotta tell you, I watched you cut when you needed to cut. I watched you do the hard decisions for all of you. That's the hardest part. Now you've got a budget that may be over in certain areas, but that's not an accident. That's so they can stay within the budget, but it's much smaller, much tighter than it ever would have been.
Yeah.
But this way they have a working document that will never be perfect. The hope is at the end of it, there's money left over that wasn't spent, and that's how this was designed, while still protecting everybody and doing everything, and including the transfers, and it's just being able to think outside the box and make it all happen. So again, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator, and for other staff, but Jeff, your community owes you on this, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff? Good. Thank you.
Jeff Carey, Melfair. As it's been mentioned, the budget wasn't an easy thing. There are a number of things that we learned along the way. One thing going forward is that the board, and I think Travis understands this, and I think the board now understands this, that going forward, the board really needs to know a position where you are. Because I look at my notes and while I ask certain questions, it just never quite got solved in the past. And would I have caught it then? I don't know. It's hindsight. But the budget you have that we've worked on and that helped put together, one, if we stick within the numbers or close to them, one, the port finishes in the black. Two, if the port's in a position, then it still will be behind because of obligations that occurred over the last 5 years. But it'll be in a position and should be in a position where it will have to borrow some funds from the water fund next year, a fairly large number, but if things are collected and we stay current with our billings, yes, it's been brought up, there are some large outstanding amounts from past developers that are behind. The budget has been factored in such a way where the port is intended to collect all of those, but understands that when you're collecting, that doesn't always come in always timely as much as one. But the budget's laid out that 1/3 of that, at least the outstanding amount, should be coming back this year. And one way or another, through either when houses are sold or whatever, one way or another, the port should be able to cover 1/3 of that. And the one thing that's a little confusing, and we finally got straightened out, was there are things that the general fund buys that the water fund depends upon, like say staff or certain phones or what have you.
Yeah.
So when you see some numbers, and I've explained this to others, that some numbers did go up, but what happened is we have to show the expense coming out of the general fund, and then the water fund comes back, we'll just say quarterly, and pays its portion of the compensation. This is not the end all type thing as far as, because there's a number of issues that need to be looked at going forward, i.e. certain aspects of the legal. But I've informed my brother about some of the actions taken here, and he looks forward to, that conversation in the near future.
Okay.
With your executive director and see where it goes. My feeling is that it can be worked out. you never know. I've been around him 60+ years. And I know a lot, but, you know, I feel that it can be worked out, so.
Okay.
Yes, there are other things that we would like to reduce. I think, as mentioned, like in the water fund will get in a decent position rather, you know, quickly, when I say quickly, within a year or two, and be financially viable. The budget's tight and it's pushing the issue of getting reserves harder than we necessarily have to, but should. In the fact that we know from when we replaced the well, or the pump in the well, how much that cost. And you don't know, you know, what they'll win or what have you. And we need to get back there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
This budget will allow it. And it gives some room. The budget in the water side does not include anything this year dealing with memory care. So that's not to say that our fees or something may be collected. It's just that when that budget was corrected, we hadn't even started the policy side of the equation.
Right.
So we did not know, but we have elected to leave it as is. And you can have subsequent hearings or meetings, you know, discussing changes in the budget.
Yeah.
The thing I would make sure, the 2 points I'll make, emphasize. The port going forward must get position statements of where you are month to month, and if there is deviations, I don't mean 5% or things like that, but if there's deviations, the port must take action, in my opinion, you know, that month or within 30 days to address that and take care of it, because the port, do not have the luxury of a lot of wiggle room this year.
That's right.
So that's one key point. The other key point is, and I say this in a general statement, should your voters, you know, your constituents, or you decide that you want to take on whatever it is you want to take on, whether it's another project or development or whatever, please take the time and listen to, and have a public meeting about a return on investment of what it is you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have the wiggle room, one, now. And two, if you look, at least the things in the documents that we dug up and Travis shared with me, and I've talked to, you know, commissioners at different times. Over and over and over again, it's because looks like to me, we did not take and do the full task. I'm not blaming the commission. Unfortunately, you've signed the dotted line, and, you know, makes you responsible even when you didn't really know. I understand that, but I don't know any other way.
That's fair.
How you work it. There are things, and I've mentioned, and Travis is aware of them, that this budget does not address reconstituting the IDD fund. It has 30 or 32,000, whatever it is, correct, currently. This year you cannot, unless something falls in your lap, you cannot start the process of putting money back in there. It doesn't mean you can't set the resolution and find what it is, how you're gonna do it. We're just saying that at this moment, the budget does not allow that, but it must be taken care of. And there's events like around the Oakland property when that went through, and I've asked Travis, people have said, well, or at least I've heard that when that came down, you had, you know, planned, you know, went through the process, and then along the way, it changed from appraised value to market value, where we were committed, the port was committed to paying market value. The problem is the grant only paid appraised value, or something to that effect.
Okay.
I've mentioned to Travis that, you know, I've seen a lot of things in life. As the older we get, we see more and more, so it's ever more gray. But to go back through that and just make sure that that's really what came down, because it's a significant, it was about 80 or 90,000 in that one transaction alone difference. There's some other things dealing in the past with like an insurance claim, where the port was looking potentially have a claim with the insurance, you know, Endurance. But I don't think you guys did, but I can't tell how you funded it.
Yeah.
And going forward, make sure your resolutions, especially on loans and transfers between funds, are clear as to amount, interest, and time frame. Because there's one that just, it's like, it's just open-ended. I don't know what the amount's gonna be, I don't know what the interest is gonna be, I don't know what the time frame is. And I don't know even if it's instigated. I know that seems impossible, but, but there are those kind of things, but just going forward, know that when you move money from one to, and I'm not saying whether it's legit or not, I'm not addressing that issue, but I'm saying when you do that, document it, and just, pretend, because we've seen it happen, pretend that, one of us doesn't make it here the next day, and somebody has to pick up the ball and know exactly where the ball landed without fumbling. I mean, it's become obvious that, there's those kind of oversights, so. With that, it was fun. More than I anticipated, but, we got through it, and, as I mentioned to Travis, that, I couldn't leave it alone, and while it's hot in my head, I've already kind of quasi laid out your 2025 as a starting point.
Yeah.
Well, mainly not so much to create your budget, but to see whether what we were proposing in this year's budget was sustainable going forward, or we're still going down. And so, yeah, to date, at least looking at that and look at what you have before you, if we stay to the course, we'll we'll dig ourselves out of the hole and get back in an even keel. So, and I guess one last thing is not to do it now, but we do need to look at the policies and guidelines of how we delegate authority to, the checks and balances.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you need to be in the nitty gritty of every decision, but there are things that to me look like they needed, a second set of eyes on before you said, okay, let's do it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
anyway,
very well.
there's always more when you get to that nitty gritty, but that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, if we do that, we'll be fine,
Yeah.
and we'll go forward and make progress. So, thank you.
Doing right can be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff. Travis, do you have anything?
Well, just to reiterate on what Jeff said, there's gonna be a lot more resolution writing going on, which is gonna make it clearer for both of you and the next commissioner.
Yeah, which I
on
appreciate.
a lot of these decisions that are being made.
Mhm.
And these resolutions are, they should have a very clear defined line of what you're approving and or what you're not approving.
One of the things I hope to do is get the IDD fund repaid eventually,
Mhm.
get that back up. That's been kind of tough to see that go down.
Yeah, that's a 2025 target.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe even, Grapeview has over 70,000.
Hmm. And on that note, Jeff, is very appreciate the input, and more importantly is, we have adjusted, like, for example, with the cash flow management system at Kitsap Bank, with our bookkeeping, there's gonna be produced reports, position reports on not just what we planned to happen, but what did happen, to be the actual report of what happened for that month, as we propose to do for the following month, what we're gonna do and what we did do the previous month, so that we're not seeing any differentiation if we do it all. And the transfer of money that goes on, it's all happening through there, and those will be on the report.
great.
Yeah,
And the transferings from whatever circumstance,
exactly.
the way I'm wired is those all have to be accounted for.
Yeah.
There should be a journal.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how many times you do it. You should.
That's what I asked you to do. The digital or hard copy makes no
It
difference.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't say this either, is that I know that the board, like, I can see it through the process. I can see that the board relies on, like, the state auditor.
Learn the hard lesson there.
And while we all want to rely on somebody, in the end,
Yeah.
you can't do it perfectly, but in the end, you have to have some kind of cost to different things, because I'm surprised that that audit didn't catch some other things.
I know it. Exactly.
Again, through the records we've reviewed, we don't see anything where it's theft of funds at this point. Or that somebody was enriched somehow.
Yeah,
It's just that, the reports were woefully inadequate.
too much dependency on that.
Yeah.
That was a rude awakening for me.
Yeah.
It really was. And then we have a contingency plan on that. When we get back on track here, we're gonna go back and account for everything. But we need to just move forward with what we got, what we know we're doing, and making the changes we are, and then go back, because you have to fix what, it's like,
Mhm.
communicate, navigate, aviate, and not, excuse me, aviate, communicate, navigate, or whatever. I can't believe I screwed that up. But the priorities is to keep the ship aright and keep it moving forward and getting good waters, which we're doing. And that's the best way in my analogy. I can't believe I screwed that up. I'm in public record too, but 30 years of a mariner. But you know what I'm saying, and I think we're taking the right steps, and I just can't help but reiterate my appreciation for all the hard work to get there.
Gratitude, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Let's go ahead and discussion or vote on the budget here on the amended 2024.
One more time for public comment.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, we need one more time for public comment. Anything else?
anybody?
Just thank you for everything again. Thank you, watching as a team. And just to remember, just so Ken knows, when we were faced with expenditures, we erred on the side of making the number greater. When we were looking at revenues, we erred on the side of making the revenues smaller.
Mhm.
That's how we put it in. So that we're wrong either way.
Aviate, navigate, communicate. We're doing it. Yeah. All right. Thank you, thank you, Commissioner. All right.
I also want to thank Justine for joining us and stepping in and helping. Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-004 on this budget. And I'll read it through if you'd like me to do that. Affirming the
Thank
amendment.
you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay.
The amendment of 2024 budget, whereas the Port of Allen Board of Commissioners has duly considered the proposed amendment of the Port of Allen 2024 budget, whereas the power to do is granted by RCW 53.35.050, whereas the Port of Allen Board of Commissioners has discussed and taken public comment at the public hearing on March 27 today, 2024, at the Port of Allen main office meeting room. Now therefore, it is hereby resolved as follows. The Port of Allen Board of Commissioners has fully considered all amendment portions of the previously approved 2024 budget. The supplement is now adopted into effect, held court record of the Port of Allen main office and posted on the Port of Allen website. And I'd like to make a resolution to approve this. I'd like to approve this resolution, sorry.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye, so moved. This one? You can. Thank you, sir.
I feel very comfortable with this.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jeff. What?
All you have to do is just follow it. I'll be happy.
Exactly, no, seriously, and that's where that position report is, that we need to be doing. Yeah.
Okay. So it's done.
Yeah,
So meeting adjourned.
cool.
Thank you.